So, see this bin of apples here? This is a very large bin. We estimate probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 to 800 pounds of apples. And these are seconds. We live not too far from where there's big orchards. And so you can get seconds. Well, sometimes I have to look to find one that has a blemish. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. So, see that? That's the kind of blemishes that some of them have. And yes, there's some that have gone bad, like that, but not very many. I mean, you can see we've dipped into it quite a bit. This crate was full. It was plumb full. And with all that we've gotten out, these are the only ones. That's about all that we found to be unusable. And so anyhow, this has proven to be a huge blessing, because you know how much this bin with hundreds of pounds of apples cost us? It was $150 plus tax and the fuel to go drive and get it. But you know, when all is said and done, it probably wasn't more than $200 or so. And we had a bunch of friends that wanted to get, you know, a couple of boxes or 4 boxes or whatever, and we just passed it on at whatever we had into it roughly. And so it's working out to be a huge blessing. And this is what we've done for several years to put in our applesauce. There's no way we could use this much. If we did this much applesauce, we'd have applesauce for probably 4 years. So if we can get rid of half of the bin, then the rest, if we were to can the rest into applesauce, we'd probably have 2 years of applesauce. So we'll just see what we are able to get rid of and what we're able to can. And then we may try and keep the rest fresh. If we could keep it from freezing up here in the garage, then they would keep through the winter probably. But that's our challenge, is keeping it from freezing up and until we get a root cellar built. And that'll come with the new construction project, hopefully in the not too distant future. So anyhow, let's head into the house and see how Lisa does our applesauce.
You're gonna wanna wash your apples. So I have my sink full, and you can just do whatever you would normally do for cleaning or washing your apples. But you just wanna wash your apples first. And then what I do is I take mine, and you can quarter them, or I actually like to eighth them, because when I quarter them, it takes a little longer to cook, and they don't cook quite as evenly. So when I eighth them, they all cook. It cooks much faster, and it cooks evenly. So I quarter them, and then once I have them quartered, then I put them on the stove to cook. Now, exactly how long they cook for, honestly, I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to time it sometime. What I usually wait for is I wait until I start seeing, see, these ones aren't quite done yet, but these ones, they are. If you can see, they've started separating a little bit. You can kind of see a little bit of them separating. And when I start seeing the separation in the apples, then I know they're cooked, they're done. So I just keep an eye on it. It doesn't take too long. I don't know, maybe 7 to 10 minutes, not too much more than that. Okay, so once they're cooked, then we go over to the Victorio strainer, which is what my son is doing. So I use a slotted spoon. I failed to mention that you do add, depending on the size of your pot, you do want to add a little bit of water at the bottom to kind of jumpstart them cooking. Usually it's only like half a cup, maybe 3/4 of a cup of water, but you know, these are pretty large pots, so I did about 3/4 of a cup of water, and then I continue to reuse that water. So I'm gonna fish these apples out like that, up into the hopper, and I have my son here helping make the applesauce. So I'm gonna fish them out. Now I do not take the skins off, I don't take the seeds off. My apples, I just I just quarter them or ate them. And then I put them in the hopper and I turn this. Kind of push it. You want to turn it for me? And out comes the applesauce. Yeah, there you go. And then while he is working on that, I'm gonna go ahead and get another batch of apples going in this water. I'm gonna try and fish out all the stuff. The Victorio is really cool because it actually separates out the skins and the seeds and the core. All of that is dumped out this end. So I don't have to worry about any of that. And all I get is just the applesauce that comes through this screen in the Victorio. So Victorio strainer, if you're gonna do a lot of applesauce, nope, go this way. If you're gonna do a lot of applesauce, this is really the way to do it because it is so easy. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get some more apples cooking. So I'm gonna just take this pot, I'm gonna reuse the water that's left in the bottom of here, and I will reuse that over and over and over again until I'm done cooking apples. So I'm gonna just go ahead and, this bowl is usually about the right size. This pot, just gonna dump all of these into here. Okay, got a little bit too much in here because I'm gonna put the lid on, it cooks it faster. Oh, take that out. And bring it back over to the pot, there's the stove. Put the lid back on, and I just turn mine all the way up on high heat. Oh, that one's still not quite done yet, but this one is ready. So we'll take my next over. So once I have the applesauce made, I usually, once I've filled up my container there, I usually add some lemon juice into my applesauce, and let me show you why. So this is an example of why. This is applesauce that has not had any lemon juice added to it, and it turns brown. Turns brown pretty quickly. I like my applesauce to stay really nice and bright yellow, so I like to add a little bit of lemon juice. Also, the lemon juice just kind of triple makes sure that you're not going to deal with botulism at all. So they usually recommend about a tablespoon of lemon juice per quart, which is what I usually do. I do about a tablespoon of lemon juice per quart. I also like to add a little bit of sugar to offset the lemon juice. So I usually do just a little less than a tablespoon of sugar per quart. So that's what I do. And then the next thing is I put the lids on. I use, okay, thanks. So I like to use these reusable lids. You can get them online. What are they called? Tatler. That's right. This was actually from a company that went out of business, but the Tatler reusable lids are really, really nice because I put up hundreds of jars of food every year, and buying more lids for my jars is just, it just gets expensive. And when you're on a really tight budget, for me it was worth investing in the Tatler lids because then I invested in one time and then I reuse them every single year. So I boil them just like you do the regular lids. I boil them, bring it to a boil, let them boil for a minute or two, and then I pull it out, I put them on the jar, and then this one I haven't boiled yet, so I'll take it back off here in a minute. But then what you do is you don't crank it down. With the reusable lids, all you do is, I've got the jar sitting on a hard surface, and I'm just gonna put it on until it starts to catch, and then I'm going to turn it until it turns till it's turning the jar.
On a hard surface.
On a hard surface. So it's just snug enough where it's not you can see I could still screw it down quite a ways, but I need it to not be screwed down so tight so that the air can escape from the jar. So what I do is I found that it works perfect if I just tighten it to a point where it's turning the jar when I'm turning the ring, and then I stick it into the canner. I can use the recommendations from the Ball Blue Book for how long you can your applesauce for. And then when I take it out of the canner after it's been in the canner, that's when I usually, because it's really hot, at that point I take like a hot pad or 2 hot pads, and that's when I screw it down really hard once I take it out of the canner for your reusable lid. So then I screw it down as hard as I can, and then I don't touch it for like 24 hours. I let it cool off, and then the next day is when I will take this off. And to know if it's sealed or not, because this doesn't have a little bubble thing here on the top, to know if it's sealed or not, you just pick the whole jar up by the lid and it will stay on there. Let me show you. Let me grab one of my jars that is already canned. Okay, here's a jar. Here's a jar of peaches. So this one's already been canned. So to check to see if the seal is good, I just literally grab this and you can see it just picks right up, no trouble at all. It is on there good. To take them off, you just use a can opener just like you would with the regular metal lids. So that's it. Then you keep the rings on and store them in your cupboard. Happy applesauce making!